travel by air is generally considered a safe, speedy, and effective method, but when the massive metal structures flying thousands of feet above ground malfunction, the results are devastating. To say the least, whenever a plane goes missing or even temporarily off the grid, almost everyone on the ground starts panicking. This is because in such a situation, people think about the worst-case scenario, which is a plane crash. There have been several devastating plane crashes in the last few decades. In most of these, there were no survivors. But in case of a crash, people are aware of the outcome. However, when a flight goes missing and is never found again, it's even more nerve-wracking. The mysterious disappearance of these flights remains unresolved most of the time, and the friends and family of people on board never really get closure. We believe family members should prepare themselves for the worst. And such harrowing case is the disappearance of Santiago Flight 513, which went off the grid and was never seen again for more than 30 years. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, where we discover the true crime and mystery cases all over the world and try to see them through different lenses. But if anyone has different insights and opinion about the case, let us know your unique insights about the situations. Now, let's begin today's case. The history of world aviation has witnessed several strange disappearances over the decades. These traceless vanishings have become a real deal over time, and the mystery surrounding them keeps people forever in doubt. There have been some incredibly confusing disappearances that remain unsolved. Not long ago, a Malaysian plane MH370 also went off the grid and was never found again. What makes the Santiago Flight 513 story most exhilarating is that it actually reappeared 3 decades after it was lost, unlike the rest of the aircraft that never made a comeback. Whoever hears about the mind-boggling case of Santiago Flight 513 thinks it's a plot from a science fiction movie. After all, what happened to it cannot be explained any other way. For several years, the miraculous tale of this fateful flight has been circulating on the internet, with many sensational headlines like Pan American Flight 914 took off in 1955, but landed after 37 years, or DC-4 aircraft disappeared in 1955, landed after 37 years, or 1950s. Airline lands with 92 skeletons. All these titles describe the same incident, which seems to have inspired the hit Netflix show titled Manifest. The incredible story of this disappearing airplane was published as a breathtaking news by the Weekly World News tabloid for the first time in the 14th of November 1089 edition. This tabloid featured a report by a newspaper reporter named Erwin Fisher. In the feature, he confirmed the sketch details about a missing Santiago Flight 513. At the time, no one was sure whether it was actually conclusive news or just a sensational hoax. The question was this a real flight that went missing, or was it all just made up mumbo-jumbo? According to Brazilian aviation authorities, a commercial airline named Santiago Flight 513 did actually take off from Aachen, West Germany on September 4, 1954. The airliner vanished while it was flying somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean and was never heard from again. A large-scale but mostly futile search was conducted by the authorities for a while in order to find out where the flight went. Despite extensively searching, they couldn't find a single piece of debris. When they didn't find any signs of the vanished aircraft or any answers, the investigators had no other choice but to concede that the plane most likely crashed and drowned in the Atlantic, and all passengers in the plane lost their lives in the tragic accident. For most skeptics, this is a good enough explanation, and they don't find anything off with the details of this gut-wrenching incident. However, the story of Santiago Flight 513 didn't end there, because according to reports, the missing plane allegedly reappeared and was seen circling the airport of Porto Alegre, Brazil on October 12, 1989. After the plane actually landed, and what the authorities found inside was downright baffling. According to the airport officials, the control tower had no communication with the missing plane that circled the airport area and eventually landed. After they went to check on the plane and opened its doors, air support and security were shocked by the gruesome sight. They discovered 92 skeletonized bodies inside the aircraft. The skeletons included all of the 88 passengers and 4 crew members. All of them were sitting in their respective seats. Even more mind-blowing was the fact that the skeletonized pilot of Santiago Flight 513, Captain Miguel and Victor Curie, was also sitting in an intact position. He was still apparently clutching the controls. The staff also noticed that the plane was still idling for some reason. The officials refused to comment on or talk about the bizarre reappearance of the missing Flight 513, and they have absolutely no clue where the plane had been for the intervening 35 years. When Santiago Flight 513 took off from Germany, it was scheduled to arrive in Porto Alegre 18 hours later, but unfortunately it never made it to its destination. However, on the fateful day in 1989 when it reappeared, the air traffic control tried to contact the pilot several times but got no response, which is understandable owing to the condition everyone inside the plane was found. And everything else in the plane was intact to perfection. Although 35 years had passed, not a single object or part of the plane was found to be. And the media was eager to find answers. That's when a paranormal researcher named Dr. Celso Attilo came forward with his theory. Othello said that Santiago Flight 513 had most certainly entered a time warp. He also said that there was no other explanation for this extraordinary incident. Attilo, however, didn't seem to have any further explanation as to how it happened and why the passengers and crew turned into skeletons. He also couldn't explain how the skeleton of the pilot managed to land the plane safely. Santiago Airlines allegedly went out of business in 1956. All their executives who are still alive today doesn't seem to know much about the mysterious Flight 513. No one can say for sure whether they actually don't know anything or are just hiding something sinister. It's been established that the local government and its agents have extensively investigated the bizarre event. However, they refuse to discuss anything about the ghostly airline or about any lead they had found during their investigation. They also refrained from commenting on Dr. Attilo's theory that the plane had entered a time warp, so the government never really came out with any particular interpretation. Conspiracy theorists and paranormal enthusiasts therefore strongly believe that government officials swept this case under the rug. They allegedly cleared out all the evidence that time warps do in fact exist, and they did this because they don't want to scare the public. But this wasn't the first time something so unbelievable and otherworldly happened to a plane or a pilot. In fact, there have been numerous such reports of pilots losing time and of people being teleported from one place to another that is thousands of miles away within a few seconds without any rational explanation. There's not a lot of information about Santiago Flight 513 out there. If you search Wikipedia for the mind-boggling incident, you won't find anything. In fact, there isn't any sensational news story remotely resembling this one, or talking about Santiago Flight 513 or Pan American Flight 914. Tabloid or newspaper which is not precisely verified either. Airplane enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists are, however, inclined to ask that if this engrossing tale wasn't just a mere hoax and was actually based on a real event, then what happened to the allegedly missing Santiago Flight 513 that carried 92 people, and is it really possible to go through a time warp and come back from it on our planet? There are several creepy locations where aircrafts, ships, boats, and even people have gone missing without leaving behind any traces. Some intellectuals are of the opinion that these places possess the ability to unpredictably form a type of time portal called a vortex. A vortex apparently is a result of an interaction with the parallel universe. This theory proposes that a vortex opens in another world, also called a parallel world, which consists of antimatter, and this can absorb people, masses, or even time and light. So this means that people who've gone suspiciously missing in this world without a trace have actually been transported to another world within a matter of seconds. In our world, there are several different and remote places that are incredibly famous for such unexplained and creepy disappearances and bizarre incidents, like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea Zone, and the Michigan Triangle. Many people believe that what happened to Bruce Jernin in the Bermuda Triangle might explain how and why Santiago Flight 513 disappeared and then reappeared 30 years later. Bruce is alleged the only person who survived paranormal phenomenon occurring in the triangle. Over the centuries, Bermuda Triangle has become notoriously famous for missing ships, people, and aircrafts without any reliable explanation. Anything and anyone who disappeared in this region has never returned to tell the true story of what kind of evil forces lurk in the Bermuda Triangle. Well, except for Bruce Jernin, who allegedly survived the impossible in real life. Jernin is the only person to make it out of the death zone alive. According to him, Jernin claims that he has experienced the time warp theory of the Bermuda Triangle and has lived to tell his story. He apparently witnessed the mystery behind the Bermuda Triangle unravel and knows what the triangle creates to make things disappear. Others also claim to have witnessed this phenomenon of mystery and disappearance. It takes a 47-minute flight to get from one place to the other at a consistent speed of 500 kmph. For Jernin's small private plane, it was an impossible journey. He and his daughter Rob McGregor were on this flight. Jernin recalls witnessing a thick, extensive layer of extremely thick white fog that was approaching them. At that time, his plane lost connection with the control center, the compass, and other devices on the aircraft also stopped working entirely. According to him, it all happened at once. He daringly decided to accelerate the plane towards the pile of fog in hopes of flying through it, reaching a clear sky. But as they entered the cluster, the air became denser, and within a few minutes the plane was completely enveloped by the cloud and visibility was reduced to 7 or 8 kilometers. There was no lightning or rain, however. Jernin does remember seeing white flashes that illuminated the sky. He rose to approximately 3,000 meters of altitude but was still unable to get out of the cloud cluster. A few seconds later he realized that his plane was trapped in the middle of a deadly cloud cluster. He had completely lost his sense of direction and didn't know where he was going. That was when he noticed a huge tunnel at least 50 kilometers in diameter appearing through the extraordinarily thick clouds. The visibility of the tunnel was incredible. He could see miles away through it. In this difficult situation he took the risk and entered the tunnel. When he approached the opening, Jernin realized that it was a perfectly horizontal tunnel just over a kilometer in length. He could see the blue sky on the other side, so he decided to head towards it. He was still quite baffled by the creepy density of the air and the cotton-like appearance of the clouds. He flew towards the exit, and after exiting the strange fog, Jernin realized that 30 minutes had passed and he had flown 100 miles in a very short time in the vortex. It took Bruce 30 years to finish his research on the triangle so that he could finally decipher how he had traveled those 100 miles in such a short interval without being able to see the earth or the sky around him. Jernin claims that it was because of something called electronic fog. He believes that he was captured by the electronic fog, and many other planes and boats have gone missing throughout history. He believes that this rare natural phenomenon could be the reason behind the paranormal happenings in the Bermuda Triangle. Some ufologists, conspiracy theorists, and paranormal researchers think something similar happened to Santiago Flight 513 and its passengers. However, this still doesn't explain why the people on the flight were reduced to mere skeletons, and how come one of those skeletons was still flying the plane in the years since Flight 513's reappearance. Several other wild theories regarding what may have happened to it have also surfaced. Some alien enthusiasts think that the plane was abducted by extraterrestrial beings. This theory is supported by the argument that there is no record of the plane or its occupants in the years between the disappearance and reappearance. The time warp theory is supported by the fact that the flight reappeared exactly after 30 years. Some believe that the aircraft landed on a remote island or was stranded in an uninhabited part of another country, where everyone on board died of starvation or dehydration, but this one doesn't explain how the pilot flew the plane back to its intended destination. All these theories seem quite far-fetched and unfathomable. This is why to many out there, the parallel dimension theory is the only one that seems to make a little bit of sense. In recent years there has been a growing body of evidence suggesting our universe is not at all random as we once thought. The understanding of time and space has massively changed over the last few decades. Several studies have shown that there are patterns and cycles in the universe that seem to defy the laws of chance. Whatever the truth about the disappearance and reappearance of Santiago Flight 513, maybe it is undoubtedly one of the most mysterious events in aviation history. It's likely that we will never find out what happened to this flight if it was actually real. The curious case of Santiago Flight 513 isn't the only one that left the entire world baffled.